Welcome to Dodgers Dogs. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, it is winter meetings tomorrow. The Dodgers have, I wouldn't say a lot of decisions to make. I mean, this could end up being one of the most quiet off seasons in modern history, right? I mean, there's been a couple in the past, even in the recent past, that there hasn't been a whole lot of action. So, hey, I mean, it could be a quiet off season. I doubt it. I still think the Dodgers need to figure out a way to add to their bullpen. I think the Dodgers need to figure out a way to add to their outfield. And I think the latest stirring is probably around Duran, and I think probably that's because some guys are a little bit too costly. I think Kyle Tucker probably is a little bit too costly. And then also here's kind of the domino of that, and I really like that. I really like the dominoes that this would put into place, okay? And you can disagree. You can go ahead, and I'm going to actually do this right here, and I'm going to open up the link to this show. So if you want to come on and join Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, I would love to have you on. You guys and gals out there, you wonderful Dodgers Dogs, know that I do not like being by myself. And so that being the case, come on in, hop in, and let's talk Dodgers baseball together. Click that link. It'll be audio only, so you don't have to deal with video. Audio only. Come in and give us your thoughts. So actually, let me go ahead and change this. Yeah, that's good right there. And then I have that muted. So we're good. Okay, so some dominoes that I think, if not likely, definitely could fall would be Duran in center field. I think he fits a lot of what the Dodgers would want. He's a guy that can bring you speed. He's a guy that can bring you dynamics. He's a guy that will be fun. He's a guy that'd be great in the clubhouse. He's a guy that's excited. He's a guy that's totally driven to win. And beyond that, he is very, very good. So the dominoes to that is, I think that moves Andy Pages to right field. That either moves Teo to left field, and or you can deal Teo for maybe some prospects that you can that you can get back that won't be on the 40-man roster, or maybe you could deal Teo for maybe a reliever or two, and then you're making a one-to-one switch, because if you add an extra reliever and an outfielder and Kike Hernandez, that is it for the 40-man spots. So I'd assume that perhaps Teo rumors were fake. I don't think anytime there's smoke, there's fire. As a matter of fact, Ila Shiva, we are talking to Fabian Ardaya tomorrow morning. Austin and I are, and that's one of our questions on the question logs, is the smoke around Teo Hernandez. Is that smoke, or is there something to that? But I'll say this, when stuff like that gets out, typically speaking, is it fully 100% true? No, absolutely not. But is it absolutely 100% just totally false? Usually not. So I'll usually say that there is, where there's smoke, a lot of times there's at least some kind of fire. So I'm not necessarily for just straight up trading Teo Hernandez. That's not something that I'm promoting here. But to be honest with you, in the long-term game, I'm a little different. It wouldn't bother me. Teo, he's clutch. He's awesome. He's helped the Dodgers win greatly the last 2 World Series. For that, we're all, as Dodgers fans, very indebted to him. Great clubhouse dude, very clutch, good offensive player. But I think, if you move Andy Pages to right field and you get a center fielder, that opens up some spots, maybe for even some at-bats for Ryan Moore. But that also opens up some spots on the 40-man to do some different things. I don't know. And if you want to move Teo to left field, I don't have a problem with that. But I just like the idea of moving Andy Pages to his forever home, which is right field, which is where I think, hey, he's not a bad at center fielder. Matter of fact, he's a good defensive center fielder. But you haven't seen the best version of Andy Pages till you see him in right field every day defensively. So I think the Duran thing makes a whole lot of sense. The Dodgers have not necessarily come out publicly, but I think it's pretty obvious that Edwin Diaz is the type of contract that they're trying their best to stay away from. But I'm going to say this again, and I've said this to Austin many different times and on our show. Okay, it's one thing to have a philosophy. Hey, we don't like to go longer years. Hey, we don't like to give up prospects. And I get it that Edwin Diaz is far from a guarantee, but he is easily the best reliever out there. So I'm not necessarily going to say, hey, and I'm on board. I've changed my mind. I'm actually on board. I want the Dodgers to go get Edwin Diaz. I want him. I think he's within that window. I would offer 4 years. I think with the right AAV, I think he would take it. And I think the Dodgers are swimming in money. I think they have a Shohei Ohtani. They have an Ohtani economy. And then also, I think a large part of that is if you win a World Series, it's worth it. I mean, you're going to make your money back. End of discussion. So I don't think you can look at this like, what does it cost? I think you look at it like, what can we gain by it, right? I mean, like with Ohtani, when you went and got Ohtani, you didn't view that as, damn, what's this going to cost us? This is going to cost us $1 billion. The way you look now, obviously Edwin Diaz isn't Ohtani. This is just from a philosophical perspective. The Dodgers didn't view that as, what is Ohtani going to cost us? They viewed that as, what is Ohtani going to make us, right? So to me, you can disagree. I am in the camp that Edwin Diaz will advance the cause for this roster in the next 0 to 5 years, however many years that may be, to win a World Series. And if you win a World Series, and he is a large part of the reason why, he's going to make that money back for you, for this organization, hand and fist. I just don't think right now is the time just to put your foot on the throat of a philosophy and say, you know what? I'm just never going to change my philosophy. By God, this is just how I think. This is how I do things. And I'm just not going to ever bend to this. Hey, I totally agree with the philosophy of the only thing that can make a situation to where the Dodgers won't be competitive every year to win the NL West and the World Series is if they're tied into too many long-term contracts. I totally agree with that. But like Austin said the other night, and he's 100% correct, the Dodgers are willing to do it if it's the right guy. Nobody has been able to explain to me yet why Edwin Diaz is not the right guy. Nobody's been able to explain to me what the Dodgers are going to do for a closer. Nobody has been able to explain to me who is better out there that the Dodgers can go get than Edwin Diaz. So if your philosophy is you're willing to overspend or flex yourself out there in an uncomfortable amount of years for a guy, for the right guy, somebody explain to me why Edwin Diaz is not that right guy. Why is he not? Now, are you saying that you don't think the closer position for the Dodgers or a closer position, period, is important enough for him to be the guy? And is your reasoning that, well, you know, the Dodgers have won their last 3 World Series with starting pitchers closing? That's an argument to make. I can't push back against that other than to say a lot of that is, I promise you, the Dodgers did not want that to happen. They would have much rather had a high leverage reliever go out there. That was way more stressful. And because the Dodgers are so good and the roster is so good, they got away with it. I won't say it was a good plan. It's a plan that I will say, closing with Julio Urias, closing with Walker Buehler, who has been terrible other than 2 weeks, closing with the guy that threw 98 pitches. I'm not going to say that's a good plan. I'm not going to say so you tell me the Dodgers are sitting around the offseason going, okay, well, how can we figure out how to win the World Series this year by using the starter from the day before in Game 7? How can we sit around and figure out how to use a starter that's going to be terrible the entire year until the last 2 weeks of the season? How can we plan our offseason to figure out how to use a guy in Julio Urias who literally had never been in relief before? You can't tell me the Dodgers are sitting around trying to figure out that plan. So having said that, there's no way anybody can convince me that the plan for the Dodgers is anything other than to actually fix that, beyond the fact that they have gotten away with it with the 3 different World Series. Okay. Would you feel different if the bat didn't get broken and the Toronto Blue Jays would have won Game 7? Would you have felt different if Walker Buehler, like he had how many times that year, went out and didn't pitch well and the Dodgers didn't win? Would you have felt different about it then? And to be honest with you, that's not just great game planning by the front office. That's just, in a lot of ways, in the game of baseball, like we saw when the Dodgers lost to the Diamondbacks, we saw when the Dodgers lost to the Padres. In a lot of ways, that's just the ball bouncing your way. The fact that Alejandro Kirk broke his freaking bat when he was like 50 for 50 against the Dodgers, against a guy that threw almost 100 pitches a day before, that's baseball gods being on your side. Now, that's Yamamoto being a dog, too. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to say it again. That's not a situation I want to rely on again. The Dodgers won the World Series in 2024 with no starting pitching. Did the Dodgers fix that last year? Well, hell yes, they did, right? The Dodgers won a World Series in 2025 with a limited bullpen. So if you wanted the Dodgers to figure out the starting rotation after 2024, why would you not then also want them to figure out the bullpen in 2025? And if you want them to figure out the bullpen in 2025, who better to do it with than the clear-cut best relief pitcher available on the market? I'm going to say it again, for 4 years, and I'm going to say it again. I have a philosophy that I don't like to make the first or the third out at third base. So if there's a guy rounding second base and he's headed to third base and there's no outs, okay, my philosophy is I'm not going to send him unless I know it's not going to be close, right? But that doesn't mean that's going to happen every single time. There will be situations to where, you know what, the situation of the game, we just need some momentum. We need to get this guy to third base because we might not hit him over, hit him in. We might not get a base hit. We might need this guy at third base with no outs, right? I have a fundamental philosophy that with 2 outs and a runner at second base, I send the guy home almost every time because the percentages are the defense is going to screw that play up. They have a better chance at screwing that play up than the guy on deck has at getting a hit. But that's not every time. If it's Freddie Freeman on deck, if it's Mookie Betts on deck, if it's Shohei Ohtani on deck, or if it's a guy that's 4 for 4 on deck, then, and I know the matchup that I have coming up is very advantageous for me, or if I know the runner's very slow, or if I know the outfielder has a cannon and not only has a cannon but is very accurate, that doesn't mean every single time I'm going to send that guy home from second base on a base hit with 2 outs. There are some circumstances that have to change your mind on that. So when you say if he's asking for 5 years and that's too much, I am not disagreeing with you on a fundamentally principled basis. But in terms of this situation, the way this Dodgers roster sets up, the way that the free agency market has gone, the trade market out there, based on whoever else is available, okay? Now, if you want to push back and say sign Robert Suarez for a couple of years or somebody like that, okay, fine. I have no problem with that, okay? Here's what I'm getting down to, though, okay? The Dodgers, in my opinion, have to do something that is going to upgrade their bullpen in a substantial way. Not just on the margins. And hey, the Dodgers are the absolute best. We talk about this, how the Dodgers win and they do such a great job winning on the margins, finding the Evan Phillips and using the Will Kleins and the Jack Dryers and the Ben Kaspariuses and the Justin Robleskis. They're tremendous on the margins. I just can't be convinced that the Dodgers need to make a move for the bullpen on the margins. I think you can add an outfielder on the margins. I think you can. because I think the starting pitching for the Dodgers, let me explain something, okay? The Dodgers just won a World Series, okay, against a very, very good team. They beat the Phillies on the road, okay? They had no problems in the first round of their playoffs, okay? They dominated the Brewers, okay? And then they beat a really good, really hot, a Toronto team. I think we saw the best version of Toronto with absolutely no offense, none. The Dodgers had almost no offense, still won the World Series, and basically had a very limited bullpen and still won the World Series. So my point is, offense is the most volatile. You know, you say, well, the postseason is a crapshoot. It's volatile. Well, yeah, the offense is, no doubt, because you are seeing the other teams. First of all, you're seeing the best teams in baseball, and then you are seeing the best teams, only their best pitchers. Let's just look at the Dodgers, for instance. Who did they pitch? Okay. Toronto didn't see John Johnson in the bottom of the ninth inning with the game on the line. I make up the name John Johnson because I don't want any player or any fan thinking that I'm throwing one of the Dodgers players under the bus, saying that they're a generic pitcher, right? They didn't throw Mr. Generic out there in the bottom of the ninth inning. You know who they threw? They threw Yoshinobu Yamamoto, okay? And so I say that to say, if you shore up the bullpen and you make it to where the other team can't score, that is the absolute best possible way in the game of baseball to take the most amount of volatility and unpredictability away from it. Period. Okay? You can compile the greatest offensive baseball players, and when they're having to face the best pitchers in the game for the best teams in the game, there is a chance that on a consistent basis, that elite pitching they're going to see will beat them. Okay? There is a better chance at that than your pitching that is elite like the Dodgers have getting beat by other teams' offense. Now, I know the Dodgers struggled with a very good Toronto offense. There was a lot of kryptonite. But I'm going to say this again. There was a lot of guys on the Toronto's team that was having like the year of their life, right, for one. And then not only that, they were at the peak of that year of their life, just having a great season. I mean, Ernie Clement, is he ever going to be able to duplicate what he did? Alejandro Kirk, great player, but is he going to be able to do that again? I mean, George Springer, great player, but he was injured. There was a lot of baseball gods when that went. So I'm saying, in my experience with the game, baseball is the most unpredictable, most volatile sport there is out there. And just look at the way the teams lose. The best teams are going to lose to the worst teams on more than a handful of occasions every single year. And the way that you beat that, unpredictability, is you make it to where the other team can't score. Okay? The Dodgers are going to be able to score or they're not, one or the other. I don't think necessarily a Jarren Duran. I don't think necessarily a Stephen Kwan. I don't think a Byron Buxton. I don't think any of those type of guys changed the Dodgers offense so much that the Dodgers would have went from the way that they executed and played offense in the World Series to all of a sudden flipping over and scoring 5 or 6 more runs a game. I just don't think any one offensive player would add to that. I think Mookie Betts having a better season. I think, Tommy Edman getting a little bit more healthy. Max Muncy being healthy this entire season, getting his rhythm back. Freddie Freeman maybe being a little bit more healthy and hitting the ball better. I think those elements are where you get your offense back, and the way Andy Pages not falling into a gigantic funk for the last month of the season. That's how you improve in terms of, now, will a Byron Buxton, will a Stephen Kwan, will a Jarren Duran, will they make your offense better? Well, of course, you're not going to go get them if you don't, right? And I think the Dodgers have the chips. I think they have the availability, and I think they have the want to go take care of that, okay? So am I advocating for the Dodgers not to get an outfielder? No, okay? But what I'm advocating for is taking away the unpredictability of baseball, and the number one most unpredictable thing that the Dodgers have right now is their bullpen. Nobody can predict what's going to happen with Tanner Scott. Nobody can predict whether Evan Phillips is going to get re-signed or not. Nobody can predict what Brusdar Graterol, his health is going to be. We're going to ask Fabian Ardaya about that tomorrow. Even if he comes back, nobody can predict how he's going to perform based on his health. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody can predict what kind of bullpen the Dodgers are even going to have next year. Okay? And when you have Andy Pages in center and Teo Hernandez in right, and then any combination of a utility in Tommy Edman, a utility in Kike Hernandez, guys like that, you're okay. Your outfield's fine, especially when Andy's going right, when Teo's going right, when Mookie's hitting well. Your offense is good at that point, okay? But I can't say that for any kind of scenario for the bullpen. I would go so far as to say I think the Dodgers need to add a high leverage bullpen guy, and then also another piece to that, like an Evan Phillips, something like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. And I'm going to say this again. I'm going to reiterate this. I am agreeing with all the people who think 5 years is too much. I agree, okay? But I'm agreeing only under the condition that every rule has circumstances. I'm going to send the runner home again with 2 outs on a base hit from second base almost every time, but there are circumstances where I won't. I am almost never going to overpay for a reliever. They're too volatile. I am almost never going to go 5 years for a reliever, okay? Almost. Unless I have so much unpredictability that I really don't know what I have with my bullpen. And again, okay, if it is that guy, somebody has to explain to me why Edwin Diaz would not be that guy. So, hey, we have just an incredible crowd logged in. I have been rambling on for quite a bit right now. We have a bunch of questions to ask Fabian Ardaya tomorrow. We have Chuck Huddleston on the line. Chuck, I'm guaranteeing you're going to disagree with me on Edwin Diaz, and we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. Let's get after it.
Well, for me, it's got to be the right deal. 5 years is too long. He may come back to us, but I was listening to one of the experts today, and he said there are like 200 relievers still out there available.
Which one would significantly upgrade the Dodgers bullpen?
Well, Diaz for sure, but he would have to come back to us. But it doesn't look like no one's jumping on him because he's at that $100 million level. If he comes back to a 4-year level, I think the Mets go back in on him too because they've got money. But I think it's a wait and see thing. I think they're going to take a little long. I think the relievers that are gone now, the fringe ones may go, the next few days. But I think ones like Diaz, it may be a while. It may be after the first year before that's settled, I think.
Yeah. So it's like any negotiation. Whenever you throw out your offer, the other side throws out their offer. When you're way off, one of two things happen. Either you go, okay, well, we're way off. I appreciate it. Then you leave, right? That's one thing that can happen. But if you actually kind of want that car or you want whatever it is you're negotiating for, this in this case, Edwin Diaz, then you just kind of wait it out like you're saying, and you say, well, we'll see how the market goes. And, maybe if I wait this out, then we will get a deal that maybe we don't like, but that we can deal with because he is the right guy.
Yeah, I'm older than you, and I've learned through the years, don't be in a hurry to buy.
Sure.
There's somebody will be nervous and will want to sell, And people will get nervous eventually here. And the owners aren't spending a lot of money yet. The Blue Jays are. Who else is spending money?
Well, there hasn't been the Dodgers so far.
No, and I think, part of it's the potential for a lockout in a year that everyone's, the owners all met. When those owners meet, when those billionaires get together, money's the main consideration.
Yeah. So who was the biggest spender last offseason?
Well, the Dodgers.
Or the Mets?
And Mets, too. But I think you got to say the Dodgers were, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they held the water on Soto. They could have said, dude, we got to have Soto. We got to have him. And I think they played that smartly. If he would have came back to them, the Dodgers might have jumped in. Yeah.
And I think you'll remember, I was not ever in the camp of getting Juan Soto. I was a no on him from literally day one. Because you're talking about like 10 years. This is a 4 to 5 year for Edwin Diaz. So I say that to say, if the Mets aren't offering the 5 years, the $100 million, that contract, the Mets are the second biggest spender right now to the Dodgers. If they're not offering that, then who will?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Me, even position players, when it gets above 6 years, I start getting really nervous. Unless you got a Manny Ramirez type bat that can, there's certain hitters that can change a game. You could have a pitcher throwing a perfect game, and Manny Ramirez in his prime can change that game.
Yeah,
and there's only a few of those hitters. And, I know I don't think you and I agree either on Bichette. But Bichette, to me, I've heard a couple experts say that he's a top 10 bat, and his age and all that. And I'm thinking strictly for second base for 1 year, let Kim still has a few things to work out. I know you love him. And then move him to third because we've got to do something at third. Bichette can certainly handle second easily and third. I think shortstop's his issue. And he's young. Yeah. And you just don't – man, if you can put a bat like that in your lineup, he's got a better bat than Tucker.
Yeah. But I haven't heard many rumblings about Bichette, and I think that's because of the injury deal, and then also I just think the position versatility there is not something that I think the Dodgers see as a fit right now.
Well, I think the Blue Jays are getting in love with spin. They got a taste like the Dodgers did. It's so wonderful to win a World Series. They don't even know that, but it was wonderful to be in a World Series for them. Yeah. And they may overspend on Tucker and want to underspend on Bichette, unless Bichette just wants to go back there, absolutely, and he'll take a major cut. Bichette might come back to the Dodgers or someone else, maybe. Yeah. And that you just don't find bats like that every day. And they're not, when Mookie was available, they got him. When those bats they're not available on a free market very often when you can find a bat like that.
Although I am not, Kyle Tucker's the best free agent out there. It's kind of like Edwin Diaz. Oh, yeah. But he is way out of my range. 5 years is not out of my range because I think the Dodgers are going to have a chance to win the World Series in the next 5 years with Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. That version of the Dodgers. They're not going to pass the baton in the next 5 years to the next generation of Dodgers. That's why I'm okay with a 5-year deal, but not a 10-year deal because you're talking about the last 5 years of your career probably being with a whole different cast of characters with the Dodgers in terms of who the core are.
I think we're in perfect position because for the future, in some respects, is because of this. If T.O. stays 2 more years, we've got this plethora of outfielders out there ready to go. We will have at least all of those outfielders, 2 of those outfielders that will be ready to play by 28 for sure.
Good point.
Why rush that? All we need is an outfielder.
Say that again. Say that again. People need to hear that.
Why rush that? We just need an outfielder for a year or 2, and T.O.'s his contract's gonna be done, and it's like the perfect scenario coming up. Pajas can move to his natural position. Depending on who it is, one of them may even be a center fielder that'll upgrade our defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, by the way, I need to stop doing this. Yeah, I worked for Guthrie High School. I was the head baseball coach at Guthrie High School for several different years and assistant there. So if you see a Blue Jays shirt like this ever on me, it's because I wasn't thinking straight and I wore my Blue Jays shirt that night. So this is not a Toronto Blue Jays shirt. This is actually a Guthrie Blue Jays shirt. So, okay, so let me ask you this. Are you in the camp that do you want a outfielder or a reliever more?
Well, I think we can do both, but I think we need to have the outfielder. I'm more like a Duran person because I don't think you can get Buxton. But I know I mentioned I posted on one of the things a day or two ago. I would be maybe even make it bigger if they're really thinking about trading Teo. You might do him a favor, trade him to Boston to the American League, throw a pitcher in and maybe someone else and get 2 outfielders, because then that takes care of their DH problem there, and he can play outfield too, and they still have enough outfielders in Boston, and they get a pitcher. And we have a lot of pitching, young pitching, but I wouldn't give River up and I wouldn't give Sheehan up.
Yeah. So you know me pretty well, Chuck. You've been on this show many different times. Why am I just so casually okay with the idea of trading Teo? Why am I not just up in arms like, oh, hell no, we need to – why am I just casually okay with that, you think?
That's all those nights when you see him just loaf after a ball. I mean, and you know what? A lot of our guys didn't hit. We need another bat for sure. Teo hits in the clutch, but he doesn't always hit in the clutch. I'd love to have his bat in the playoffs, but sometimes you got to have his bat because he's given up 2 or 3 runs in the field.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you what, Shohei, a couple times I would have. Good thing he's a good human being, because there was a couple of those games. If I was Shohei, I'd be staring out in right field like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think too. I know Tanner Scott didn't pitch well last year, but wouldn't you agree that the Tanner Scott story, in terms of the story he's going to write as a Dodger, is far from over?
Oh yeah, there's a dozen.
We jumped the gun on that.
Right, the last 20 years, you could probably name a dozen relief pitchers that come back and had great years after a bad year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say it may not be him, but I what he has and what he can do isn't a mirage. So he's just got to get it right. And the other thing is, I feel pretty secure and safe with all the young arms we have. I see a bunch of bullet throwers down there, the people that can spin the ball in different directions, that can step up and fill those gaps. We got so many starters, and I tell you what, a couple of those really great starters will make good long relief men, and some of them closes. And if Evan Phillips comes back to form midseason, Evan, just like if he's anything close to what he had been, that'll be a plus.
Yeah, do you think the Dodgers are going to re-sign? Now, here's how you would get Evan Phillips. You would sign him at spring training, right? And right whenever you can put guys on the 60-man IL, you would immediately put him on the 60-day IL, so you could sign him and then also not have to use him for the 40-man. You could still get that 40-man spot back. So if they do sign Evan Phillips, I would not expect that to happen until spring training.
And I think they need to do that because one thing is he'll want to get paid, so he won't get paid unless he's on there, and he'll want to go with the doctors and their staff to help with his rehab. So I think he won't be doing it on his own, because right now he's just doing it with his people on his own. So he's going to I think he's going to want that and need that. And he's been a Dodger. He wants to be a Dodger, just as long as they don't disrespect him.
Which outfielder do you want? Byron Buxton, Brendan Donovan, who's kind of a super utility guy. He's almost like a different second version of Tommy Edman. Stephen Kwan, Kyle Tucker, obviously you want him, but weigh into the consideration the contracts, or Jarren Duran. Which one do you want?
I think Donovan's going to be too expensive. Everybody wants him, but if he wasn't too expensive, I would say him. If Buxton would probably be my first choice if he wasn't too expensive either. I think Duran's the most doable one. I think Tucker's going to be too expensive. You know what? If I could get him on if he comes back and people don't sign him, maybe he might come in on where he can go back and go back free agent in a year or two. Maybe I'll get one of those, what they call the deal where they can opt out.
Yeah, right.
Give him a big contract, a lot of money for a year or two, and let him opt out.
So you just run back last year's bullpen that wasn't good?
No, I want to find somebody if I can. And there's not so many in the trade. If I can find one of these guys, maybe add an arm, it'd be wonderful if it was Diaz. I don't think it will be, but although I like our young guys. You like them too. We got a lot of guys that can throw from both sides of the plate, and I think one of our other guys, you got Vesia, he'll be back. I mean, we won without him this year, and I think we'll be in better shape. They're not going to repeat. We are not going to have a bullpen no matter what we do here like we had last year. It isn't happening.
Well, because you're saying Tanner Scott will pitch better. You won't have Kirby Yates on it. Your younger guys like a Gavin Stone, a River Ryan, and guys like that, Kyle Hurt will be also being inserted. They should pitch better.
Yep.
But, I mean, there's no guarantees to anything, but don't you think that's a lot of uncertainty? For a club with a roster that's as elite as the Dodgers, is that not a lot of uncertainty for an entire position?
I can't tell you how many times we've gone into the season when we thought we had a good bullpen and then they weren't. Not like last year usually, but bullpens are crapshoots. That's why they don't want to spend a lot of money and a lot of prospects on bullpens, because you never know what you're going to get from one year to the next unless you're, these premier guys. I mean, I'm not in favor of signing Kenley back because he'll want to be the everyday closer every game in the ninth, but really he's better than some of the things that are out there, but I'm not really in favor of doing that either.
Yeah, I'm not either. So what do we do with Dalton Rushing? Is he just forever a backup? We try to figure out a game plan for him, or do you cash in on him while he may be before he starts losing peak value?
See, me with him, he can play some outfield, but Freddie needs more time off, so I would move him to first base because Kiki usually the one that play at first, and Dalton can play first base. So I think move him to first base sometimes. Maybe he gets a little outfield. I don't think one more year, I don't think will hurt him, but more than a year will hurt him. And me, I want, if we don't pick up a third baseman, I want Will to transition to third or first eventually if Freddie goes. But Will's bat is too valuable to keep him at catcher, even though he's done a really great job at catcher. That bat, I think he's got a clutch bat. It's one thing to have a good bat, but he has a clutch bat that wins you ball games, and I hate to lose that. That behind the plate eventually will take that away from him.
Yeah. I'm going to say this again, and I don't know how much time you have here, but I'll say this, okay? One of the biggest reasons why you don't just run it back. You don't just say, hey, well, we won it last year. We got great players. We're elite. We have an elite roster. Let's just run it back and throw the same guys out there, is complacency. I know these guys are incredible. They're Hall of Famers. They're this and that. But whenever you add a Blake Snell and guys like that, a Roki Sasaki, guys like that have never won a World Series, and Tyler Glasnow had really never been a part. I mean, they won it with him as part of the organization in 2024, but he was never a major part in terms of producing on the field. When you add guys like that are elite and have never won a World Series, they bring that hunger that keeps you from getting complacent. So one of my big arguments here is the Dodgers have to bring in that next elite player, elite arm, elite bullpen piece that has never won a World Series to bring that hunger like Blake Snell did last year that we saw that keeps you from getting complacent. Am I overrating that?
No, I'm 100% in agreement with you on that. And another thing let's say if you got Diaz and you got him in an expensive deal, one thing the Dodgers can do that a lot of teams can't do, they have so much money and they have so many good prospects, a bad contract can be traded away by sending the money to pay for it and a prospect with it, or two. We can do that. And you watch, if we have a bad contract in 2 or 3 or 4 years, you'll see the Dodgers do that with 1 or 2 of those players.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, would you ever be in favor of trading Andy Pages? He still probably has a lot of value.
I was upset when he went to the Angels. Because I'm unlike most fans, and because I follow the minor leagues, I was so upset when they traded him to the Angels. When that fell through, I was the happiest guy until spring training started. I was so happy that fell through. Okay,
last question for me here, and I'll give you some final thoughts. What the hell do we do with Ryan Ward? I mean, we're talking about trying to go get Jaron Duran or somebody in the outfield, and then your outfield would be Teo, Andy, and whoever you go get in whatever combination in terms of defensive positions. So that leaves you with, what is Ryan Ward's role? I mean, is he just going to be in AAA until he's 40 years old?
Yeah, I don't want him in AAA. I mean, not unless it's just for a month or something because they have to sort a few things out, but he needs to play. But, the Dodgers, the thing is, the reason they even have these players is for the major league team.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers are going to do whatever's in their best interest and try to help their players' interest when they can, and we've seen that a few times. And I mean, look, Noda was a decent player, and he hasn't hit a lick since he left. How long has he been gone? I mean, it's a big difference, like you say, from AAA to the major leagues. But I would love him. You know, the thing was, he should have got his chance last year. Conforto should have been cut loose, and he should have got his chance. That made no sense to me. And then to put him on the 40-man, if you were going to do that, what a wasted opportunity, because he could have had he could have had a 2-month tryout, and he might have set the world on fire. You never know. If someone hits the ground and they have some success, confidence is the biggest thing. They need confidence, some success and confidence.
Chuck, what a wonderful job you've done here. This is absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for joining. You have any final thoughts here?
I just want to thank you for all the shows the people, anyone out here. If you haven't gone back and watched any of the stuff that you've done with the coaches, and they're just amazing. You're such a good interviewer, and I just want to thank you and appreciate what you've done. If I can add a little bit every once in a while, I'm learning every day when I watch one of your shows.
Well, thank you, Chuck. Really appreciate it, brother. Great job, man.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, so that's Chuck Huddleston. What a great job he absolutely did there. Just wonderful job. Just a tremendous baseball person. So he mentioned the interviews. I've got Carson Hobbs, Isaac Aone. I've got already in the can Patrick Copen. Interviewed Brady Smith today. Tomorrow morning is Fabian Ardaya, and we've got about 15 more coming up this week. So we have any and every interview that you could possibly want from the players in this organization, and I greatly appreciate the wonderful words there about the interviewing skills. It's a whole lot of fun and a big honor to get to meet these guys. So, hey, I totally agree. CNAV, 27 home runs for a young player in Andy Pages. That, to me, that's not even a starter in terms of the conversation that you have with him. And we've also said many different times that, hey, Andy Pages is the guy. He's going to get hot for a month. And his streaks last like a month long. They're not like a week long. They're not like 4 games long. They are a significant amount of time, both hot and cold. So if you want to join the show, I have let me actually put that link in right here again. Let me post that link. Click that link again. It is audio only. It is not video. Come on in and help me out, because it is Sunday night in the big town, and I want to talk about what you want to talk about, and we have a lot of people in the show right now. Hey, I laughed when I read that Zach Gallen was allegedly a Cub for about 60 seconds. Rumor, I suppose. So this is the part of the year where there are a lot of rumors. The winter meetings start tomorrow. I think it can safely be said, in not a rumor form, that the Dodgers front office, whether, of course, I've made the case for Edwin Diaz, okay, and other people have made their case too, okay, that's fine, okay, but I think we can all say this without it being rumor, that the Dodgers in some way, shape, or form are going to be very aggressive at trying to figure out how to shore up their bullpen, and then also how to fix their outfield, while also dealing with the complexities of knowing that Zaire Hope is going to have to be put on the 40. There's like at least 5 guys that we talked about on the last show that this time next year will have to be added to the 40-man because of the Rule 5 draft. Then there's another 7 or 8 guys like Alex Makarowicz, Cam Day, that's going to really hurt not putting them on the 40-man because they have a very high ceiling. So the roster crunch, especially starting next year. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't want to get into that conversation again. What I'm trying to say is, like Chuck, this is why Chuck is so smart. It's not just about, hey, go get the best player. It's also about, hey, let's go get a player that fits into the timeline of some of the young guys we have in the organization. One of the questions we're going to ask Fabian tomorrow morning, Austin and I, is, do you think it's a real thing that the Dodgers need to get younger at certain positions? Does Alex Freeland need to start, and Hassan Kim, do they need to start getting at more at-bats, just for the simple fact that if they are your future, they need to start in that adjustment process immediately? Do you need to get Dalton Rushing more at-bats? Those kinds of deals. So a guy that, like Chuck said, that it fits the 1 or 2 year time span makes a lot more sense to the timeline of the younger outfielders. And I know you say, well, hey, screw the younger guys. If you can get a Kyle Tucker, I will take a Kyle Tucker over 15 of these young guys because we already know Kyle Tucker is going to be great. That kind of goes back to the Michael Bush, who's, what, a 4.5 WAR guy. You can make the argument all you want that, yeah, but we got Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris in return for him. So, okay, you're talking about a 4.5 WAR guy right now at the major league level. Jackson Ferris might be that. Zaire Hope might be that. Okay, they might. But I know Michael Bush is that. So I understand if you're saying, hey, I know that these young outfitters might be good, and out of the 7 or 8 of them, surely 1 or 2 of them will hit, right? I'm not going to push back against that argument. But and I understand if you're saying, even that being the case, I know how good Kyle Tucker is right now. I know how good Jarren Duran is right now. I know how good Stephen Kwan is right now. No problem whatsoever. But I will say that I do think even on the position side, it's a smarter deal if you can find a guy that fits not just on the field but also in the timelines of the guys that you have coming up. And I totally agree that Kyle Tucker is too expensive, no doubt about that. CNAV, we need Wardo to be on fire in spring training, just like James Outman did a couple of years ago. James Outman was not going to break the 26-man roster in 2024, I believe it was, and he just got on such a smoking hot run that he forced his way on and had a good year in 2024. Casey, do predict Dodgers will give Ryan Ward a try in the outfield or trade Ward instead? I would prefer they trade him. I don't see a scenario to where he gets a runway to where they say, hey, you are our starting outfielder. You are our everyday starting outfielder. I think Ryan Ward's position in the Dodgers is one to where if somebody gets hurt, he's depth. I think that's what he's going to be, and I think that's unfortunate. I'm not in favor of that. I understand that. I'm not criticizing the organization because of that. I think they are doing what they're supposed to do. But I think if they have an opportunity, what they didn't want to do, because here's why they put Ryan Ward on the 40-man roster to begin with. It wasn't necessarily, they didn't necessarily put Ryan Ward on the 40-man because they went, you know what, he's ready to be a major leaguer. Let's do it. That's not exactly why they did it. They did it because he has already completed 6 years in the minor leagues, which means he was getting ready to be a free agent. So if you put him on the 40-man, that gives you the entire offseason to find a trade partner. And if you trade for $5, okay, that's $5 more that the Dodgers have that they would not have if they would have allowed Ryan Ward to expire and become a free agent, because he was not going to sign and re-sign with the Dodgers. So if they trade Ryan Ward, whatever they trade Ryan Ward for is more than they would have gotten if he would have just signed as a free agent. That's why they signed him to the 40-man, to see if they could actually get a return for him instead of just allowing him to expire and become a free agent. So having said that, I hope they do that. I hope they find a good return for him that makes it feel like for them that they've maximized the value of him, kind of like they did with Hunter Freducia, like they did with Michael Bush. And then also plan B is, hey, that gives us the ability to shop for a Stephen Kwan. Maybe we'll throw out a ridiculous offer to Kyle Tucker. If he just wants to be a Dodger, maybe he'll accept it on our terms, knowing that that's not going to happen. Or a Jarren Duran or a Brendan Donovan, whoever it may be. That gives us some backup insurance plans to give us time to pursue these other guys at our leisurely pace. Because, I mean, it's like looking for a job when you already have a job, right? You're comparing this job you're applying for to the one you already have, which means the one that you're applying for has to be better. Versus if you go in and apply for a job when you don't have a job and you're desperate, you're like, hell yeah, give it to me. I don't care what it is. I don't care how much I just need a job, right? The Dodgers aren't in the I need a job. They are looking for a job already having a really good job in place. And Ryan Ward adds to that factor, adds to that insurance. It gives the Dodgers leverage. It gives them the ability to get something out of him, and then also gives them time to go find the other guy, the proven major league veteran. Because if they go find the proven major league veteran, then they can trade Ryan Ward. I think exactly what will happen is if they do sign Byron Buxton, Jaron Duran, Stephen Kwan, somebody like that, I think either Ryan Ward will be part of that trade or the very next day he will get traded. That's where I'm at with that, and I totally agree that Craig Osterberg, if you want to win, come to the Dodgers, and that is no secret. One of the things that you'll see in the interviews that I do with guys like Will Klein, Michael Kopech, and guys that came over from other organizations, hey, it's out there. It's not a secret. If you want to win, come to the Dodgers. If you want to find the best version of yourself, come to the Dodgers. That is a real thing. And so that's when I started talking culture all these years ago. People just called BS on it all they wanted. And I was like, I'm telling you, it's real. Culture is real. And the fact that, hey, the Dodgers culture is one of winning, that is attractive to all these guys, the Blake Snells, the Tyler Glasnows. That's the reason why Tyler Glasnow signs an extension, that and he's from SoCal, that kind of deal. So trust me, those things are real. I am a no on Arenado too. I think he's in decline. Tanner Scott, zero control, definitely needs an off-speed pitch. Would agree with that. We need young players under the eight that were born after 1998. Casey, are any of the C prospects close in getting to AAA or the 40-man roster? Zach Earhart, James Tibbs III, Cole Myers, Damon Keith, all those guys are very close to AAA. Antonio Knowles has already made it. You've got guys like Kelvin Ramirez, Cam Day, that reached 100 miles an hour. Kelvin Ramirez has thrown the ball 100 miles an hour. Both reached AA last year. Luke Fox had success in AA. Wyatt Correll made it to AA last year. Peter Hubeck, a lot of people think, is going to get taken in the Rule 5. Jared Karros, I think, will come back at some point this year and be healthy. Jackson Ferris is close. So, yes, I don't know what you would consider to be C prospects, but there are a lot of prospects that are very close to the major league level. And if it weren't for the depth in this system, if you're just in another system that didn't have as much depth, they probably would be expected to make the major league roster. Like a Jackson Ferris, I would assume in a lot of organizations would be expected to break with the major league club this year. See, now, we had 27 blown saves last year. We need bullpen help. There you go. I totally agree. Absolutely right about Bush. He could have been our left fielder right now. Okay, so that's going to do it for me. It is Sunday night in the big town. We had a wonderful crowd. We've gone on for just about an hour. I've got to log off here and get ready for my Fabian Ardaya interview in the morning. So I want to thank all you wonderful Dodgers dogs out there. You guys and gals are the absolute best. So thank you again. Thank you to Chuck for joining the show tonight. Thank you to you all. It's a great day to be a Dodger.